Welcome to the Heart of Money podcast, where we discuss the impact that money has on every area of your life and where you can learn to make smarter money decisions. Join our conversation as we discuss our past experiences, talk about how to make better money management choices, and in the end, make a commitment to being weird. Hey, folks, welcome back to the Heart of Money, episode 57. I am your host, Austin Black, joined by co host Bob Wessler and a special guest on today's episode, Mr. Jason Medows. Jason is a podcast host of the Ag State of Mind podcast. He's also a pharmacist and a rancher. One of my good friends I've had the opportunity to connect with over the last couple of years. Jason has such a unique insight around money, around finances, around mental health, and I'm really excited to have him on the show today. So, Jason, welcome to the Heart of Money, my friend.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to chatting with you guys.
Well, Jason, I know that you've got a wide variety of experiences when it comes to money, to agriculture, to mental health. Just from what you have done, what you've seen, um, I know that you have learned probably an awful lot in the last couple of years with your podcast, as well as just your own life experiences. For folks who have never heard of Ag State of Mind, never heard of Jason Medows, give us a real brief background on who you are, what you do, and how you're helping people today.
Sure. So, born and raised outside of Cuba, Missouri. My dad was really uh, kind of self-made guy in the fact that he was born in poverty, but he became one of the largest landowners in our county in just a span of 20 years or so. Making really incredible, far-sighted decisions, and my dad's just a really incredible man. He's in the sunset years of his life now, but he's just left an incredible legacy for myself and my four siblings and everybody that goes along with us. Um, my dad was a sale barn operator, and had a pretty good sized cow calf operation, but also became a land developer. Just all these things just kind of set some really firm foundations for our family. But my story, I'm the youngest of five kids. By youngest, I'm 25 years younger than my oldest sibling.
I did not realize
and
that.
13 years younger than my closest sibling. So
Wow.
I was born into very unique circumstances. I went to high school with one of my nieces. It's a really strange kind of dynamic, but
Yeah.
I kind of grew up just kind of passively involved with my dad and in his operation. I helped when I asked / forced when I was a kid. And I was more into playing sports than I was into the cattle. But I left. We also had a pharmacy, and my brother-in-law owned the pharmacy in our town, and I kind of started working there when I was, I think, junior in high school, and kind of fell in love with it. And that's what I decided. I would go to pharmacy school. I left in 2002 for pharmacy school, and man, I wanted to be back home. And I sat down with my dad one time, just saying I don't know if this pharmacy school deal is going to work, because, going from Cuba, small, tiny school, to going to living in St. Louis, man,
Yeah.
It was quite the culture shock. And I said, I just wanted to move back home, go to work on the farm. And my dad said, no, that's not going to work.
Wrong move, wrong choice.
Yeah. So you stick it out. And, and this was after, I think it was my first test in college was a calculus test, and I failed it. And it was just, I'd never gotten below a B on a test in my life. So it was, just like I said, just all kinds of culture shock. And but I stuck it out through school, ended up graduating on time. But still, I still just missed home so much. I missed just the atmosphere of being on the farm, being in a rural community. And I knew that's where I wanted to be whenever whenever I got out of school. And I actually bought a set of cows while I was still in school, learned a lot in coming home and helping my dad on the weekends and
Yeah.
During breaks. Took a job after I graduated pharmacy school in 2008, came back home, took a job at a hospital just down the road. Met my wife there. She was a nurse who had just graduated nursing school. And we've built a nice little life together. We have 4 kids, and just we have about 150 head cow calf operation now. That's kind of blossomed since I started my own. And just we live just 10 miles or 10 minutes down the road from my folks. So just really just perfect setting. But as far as the podcast is concerned, I know that was kind of a long ways to get to where we're at, but I feel like it was all relative. My podcast really started out of my own desire to combine my 2 worlds of healthcare and agriculture. I was on a podcast on Monday night talking about this very same thing. And I said, I feel like and I feel like it's a long ways to get from pharmacist to mental health advocate. Right. And so I always joke, like somebody must ask the question, like, oh, you must have really been into mental health stuff when there was really like a light bulb that went off with you whenever they started talking about that in college. Right. And I said, no. Like the least interesting thing about college to me was mental health. Like when we started that, I glazed over that. I learned it for the test. I forgot all of it, So it was just one of those things. I'm almost ashamed to admit that now, but that's the way it was.
Yeah.
But still, just through, I think I recognized a need, not only in a community, but I recognized a need in myself in the fact that I had my own mental health struggles. I kind of hit on them a little bit whenever going through college. Moving to St. Louis from small town was super hard on me. And I don't think I ever really adjusted. Part of the reason that I didn't allow myself, but it was hard on me. But I made it through. I made adjustments. I continued to struggle after I got out and got a job and a whole deal. Just a different type of struggles, struggles shifting from student struggles to full-time worker, husband, father struggles. I went from being a bachelor to being married with 3 kids in 13 months time. My wife, our oldest son, was from a previous marriage. He was 2 years old whenever Carrie and I started dating. He was 4 when we got married. And then Carrie had twins, I guess November. We got married in October of 2009, and we had twins in November 2010. So it was quite the deal for me.
Like
so
jumping
I
in
had
head
a
first.
lot of right. Yeah. And I mean, that's exactly what it was. And, I went through a lot of transition, a lot of just not knowing what to do. And that came with a lot of struggles. And nobody really tells us how to actually deal with that stuff. Right. They don't tell us all the stuff that happens. We just say, you go to school, you get a job, and life's going to be great. Right. That's what they tell you. And it is, life is great, but it doesn't mean it's not without its struggles. And I, unfortunately had to go through some of that the hard way. But I found tools to help myself get better. And, I kind of realized that if I had these struggles, then surely other people are going to struggle similarly to me. And that's kind of where I knew I wanted to do something. I don't know. I just had this, you just have this feeling whenever you feel like there's something more, you want to do something more. And that's kind of what it was. And I didn't know I didn't know what it took to start a podcast. I mean, I'd barely only known what a podcast was just a short time before that. But yeah, I started it, and with a lot of a lot of lessons learned the hard way again on stuff.
Hmm.
But yeah, just I felt like I had a really unique perspective. Um, had a really unique perspective that I think a lot of people could relate to, in the fact that, I understood the healthcare system. I understood the struggles that can come with that. I understand what it takes to be an ag producer, and I also, I mean, more probably most importantly, understood what it takes, how people struggle just with their mental health.
Yeah.
And I think just having all those three things, I think I had a really unique perspective, and I feel like it was an obligation to do something. And and I think it's working okay.
I'd say so. Yeah, yeah. With the having over 200 episodes under your belt now, I think you probably have figured a few things out, and I know you're making a difference because it's the people you've had on there and just the stories that have been told. I'm sure have affected the lives of several people. So I'm glad that you took the step and that you filled the void that was there that no one else really had, even maybe the expertise that you did to talk about. So I'm glad that you did that. You said something about your dad there at the beginning of your story that kind of made me wake up a little bit. That he went from poverty to one of the largest landowners, and I'm sure that growing up, there's probably some things that you learned or that you experienced that you've applied to your own life, and how what it took to accomplish that, maybe from a financial standpoint, from a mindset standpoint, from a work ethic standpoint. What what did you learn from your dad, and what have you incorporated into your own life? And we'll kind of go, with the financial element of it to really learn how to overcome the struggle, how to overcome the adversity that's put in front of you, and choose a better life for yourself.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing my dad taught me was, you don't have to be the smartest person. You don't even have to be the hardest worker. You just have to work the smartest, right?
Mhm.
Like, you
Yeah.
need to do things that work for you, and you need to find something that you can work at but also enjoy.
Mhm.
And then, when you're able to do that, things just kind of come naturally. And I'm not saying that, oh man, I wake up every morning and I'm so excited to go work in a pharmacy. That's not the case, right? It's still
Right.
a job, but
Right.
it's something that I do enjoy, though. I mean, and I think he helped me see some really important things about, what to look for whenever, we'll keep going with the job thing. Like, what when you have a job opportunity that works for you, um seize that.
Mhm.
And if you find a way that making money is comes naturally to you, go after that.
Mhm.
I think that's a big thing that the mindset that he really instilled in me. um and it served me really well. And I think the most important thing about my dad, and financially, and it's related to finance, but I think it's the most important thing you can form with people is just relationships.
Yeah.
Right, the relationships you form with people, and then everything else will come after that. And I think that's really been, with my dad being a land developer, being a farmer, being a sale barn operator.
Mhm.
He even operated some retail stores at a time. And really, the most important thing I think he forged were those relationships with other people.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what we all should focus on. And the financial stuff will come as a fruit of that.
Yeah. Very well said.
I'm enjoying the story. I can
Bob,
relate
anything
to a lot
jumping
of
out
it,
to you?
not all of it. But I think you're in a position that's unique from having would it be pharmacology background along with the ag side, and I can relate to the St. Louis part. I didn't do St. Louis, but I did Texas and the Metroplex, and it was just a big version of Columbia for a while. And I got to the point that it was it just wasn't home, and had the chance to come back to Columbia. And I struggled with things down there, and learned a lot
Mm-hmm.
also with mental health while I was there, and still applying those things today. So I don't have the focus necessarily on the ag side, but more on the financial and how that can affect your mental health. So um, I just think I'm really enjoying getting to hear your story through this podcast.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean and being intentional with finances is a huge part of it, right? Um, it's a huge thing. So some I don't know if I heard this somewhere or if this is just something my wife and I just kind of came up with. Um, and you can really pay attention to what's important to somebody based on how they spend their money, right?
Yes.
Um, I so the big and I don't know where this is going or where this came from, but this is kind of what jumped out. I think it's probably because I just heard one of my kids start up the side by side, and that's just probably where it's going. Around me, there's just the big thing, like the big status symbol here in this county is a really fast side by side, right? And I mean, you guys know how much those dang things cost.
It's
It's just
ridiculous. That's why I
it's
haven't bought one
unbelievable,
yet.
and it's so ridiculous. Yeah, it's so ridiculous. And I I understand that people enjoy, obviously they enjoy them and they want to spend their money on them. But the thing about them for me is I don't think I could ever enjoy them enough to justify the cost of them.
Yeah.
I mean, I blow my money on enough stupid things. I don't need to blow it on something else, like cows. So uh it's and I know um we live in a culture where we want so many people to think that we're successful and based on what they see us in our day to
Yeah.
day, whether that be our clothes or our vehicles or stuff like that. And Carrie and I, we've made a decision really long ago that um, the things that we're going to spend that money on are instead of they aren't actually things, they're experiences.
Hmm.
They're things that we get to go do with our kids, because as you guys know, and I'm sure you talk about, stuff gets old, stuff gets tiring, stuff gets wore out and loses its value. But you make memories with stuff. That stuff doesn't go away. You've got that forever.
Yeah.
And that's been a really key thing with our marriage and with raising our kids, is spending that time and money on things that are going to last.
So I've got kind of a counter question to that then, because as you're saying that, the idea that pops in my mind is when I spend money on experience, I've got the memory. When I spend money on an asset, I can still see it long after I've had it. So I'm curious as to what your thought process is around that, and kind of how that correlates to what you guys have decided makes the most sense to you from that standpoint.
So my dad always made this. I remember I was looking at buying cars for the first time uh, as an adult, right?
Hmm.
And I was talking to my dad about this. I was like, "Oh, Dad, look at this car. This is what I'm going to buy." And he's like, "The excitement won't outlast the payments." That's what he said to me. And that's been like my mantra of accumulating stuff
Yeah.
for so long. And I've realized that stuff, even just to stand and look at it, there's very little that is aesthetically pleasing enough for me to really spend a lot of money on it. Now, don't get me wrong. My wife drives a very good car for our kids and family. I mean, I drive a bucket of bolts to work, but, we do have nice things. I don't want to say that we don't, but we're really try to be really intentional with stuff and make the stuff that we do spend money on, whether it be even some things and experiences, all worth it. Like we want to get all of our money's worth out of everything that we do.
Yeah. Bob's kind of got this look like I can relate to that.
No, I'm thinking about Austin and his super glued shoes and how much he gets out of those shoes. So
Bob, you'd be
I buy
proud of me.
jeans
I
off
think I'm
eBay.
turning my
Same here.
$25 pair
Same
of
here.
shoes.
Yeah.
I think I'm turning my
Yeah.
$25 pair of shoes into my $10 pair of shoes. So you'd be proud of me.
Well, I was looking at a pair of shorts that I was wearing the other day. I'm like, I've had these for over a decade. I mean, they're different clothing items that have been around for quite a while, and they're still in pretty good shape. As long as you wash them, iron them, dry them, do whatever you read the tag if it exists anymore. But
Right.
yeah, I like you're saying, I buy stuff to last. And you talk about a bucket of bolts. I miss my or even a side by side. I'll take my 20-year-old Wrangler over a side by side. It serves the same purpose. And I live on a horseshoe neighborhood that's about maybe 2 miles, and there are half dozen or so side by sides in the neighborhood. I don't even know. They're not going anywhere other than not walking. They're just driving their side by side down the road and back. You're like,
Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny. It's just, it makes me laugh because I do. I mean, people who live in town and here, have side by sides, and the only place they go are places throughout town.
Yeah.
It's like, there's a lot cheaper ways you can do the same thing, my
But it's
side by
not
side.
near as cool. You don't look near as cool.
I guess not. Yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right about that.
I met one on a
And then that,
As I say, I met one on a back road the other day. He had all the neon lights going. I go, stuff that when I was in high school was cool to put on a car. They're now doing on
Right.
side by sides. And
yeah, and those I guarantee I could buy probably 4 or 5 of my cars for one of those side by sides.
Oh yeah, it's ridiculous. So you mentioned something there as you're talking about, investing in your experiences and getting the most value out of those. I know for me personally, I am extremely particular about what kind of experience I will spend money upon, because I personally just have a hard time with going on a nice trip or going on a nice vacation, spending a lot of money and having fun and having those memories, but then just not having anything to show for it. That's just kind of a personal struggle that I have. So what has been your um, your method to get the most out of your experience and to make sure that you are, even if you're just coming home with pictures and memories and that time spent, making that worth the investment that you made and being proud of what you did as a family?
Yeah, and I think that's exactly it. It's not what we do; it's so much as who we do it with. And that's for me. I mean, we've got. My wife's a traveler. She loves to travel, and by default, I kind of have to love to too.
Right.
So it genuinely makes her happy to go places, and the simple satisfaction that I know that she's happy and that it makes me happy as well to get away from here every once in a while and go see and explore something new, is very valuable. And this summer we were on vacation in Utah, and our son, we were I don't remember what we were doing, but we were there, and he said to Carrie, he said, is the reason we go on vacation to just get away from home. And that's not and we're try to explain to him that no, that's not exactly what it is, because we love home.
Mhm.
But we also want to experience new places too, and find out what we like about a place, what we don't like, places that, and I think it's really important to get out and see different places, because this is I mean, and we're just talking about staying even in the States. uh there's so much incredible stuff that I'll never get to see, probably just because there's so much. And just being able, I think it's what's really important is like, just if you see how different everywhere else, and then you come home and you see how different it is, and you recognize, like, this is like all the same piece of dirt, essentially. Like, it's all connected, but it's so different.
Yeah.
Like, things are so, I mean, we were out in Arches National Park in Utah, and like, I can't even imagine that's on the same planet as where I live right now.
Mhm.
And it's just so cool to see that and understand. And for me, there's a big faith perspective that comes in and says to me, like, you know, that's it's almost proof of a higher power, because I mean, there's no way that all of this was created by accident, right? That I could just drive a couple of days and see something totally foreign. um, I know that was a long kind of drawn out answer to your question, but to me, just having the experiences and the memories, and the fact that we get to talk about that with our kids forever,
Yeah.
and as a married, just even Carrie and I together forever, is really, really special.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking back to, our honeymoon that Laura and I went on, and then our first anniversary, we went to Maine for a honeymoon. We went to Gatlinburg, Tennessee for our first anniversary. Haven't gone anywhere far since then. But we want to go back to Gatlinburg whenever the kids are old enough. We can, maybe take a horse trailer out, because we saw a lot of trail riding opportunities out there and do stuff like that. So hearing your commentary on that makes me think too. Okay, whenever we do a really purposeful event, that is a lot of fun, and just it does mean a lot when you can do it with someone who shares in that moment with you. And it's not so much about where you are and what you're doing, as like you said, who you're doing it with, and just that whole combination. I think the way you described that was very palatable, and really just brings to light the intentionality that you put into making that be the investment that you do, for your enjoyment and pleasure and whatnot. Um, Bob, I got a few more questions that I want to ask. Is there anything that you want to chime in here and get some insight around?
Oh, I'd say go right ahead.
Um, so looking back over the past, see, how long have you and Carrie been married?
A couple weeks will be 12 years.
Okay. So in the past 11 years and 50 weeks, what have been the the biggest lessons you guys have learned as a couple around your financial management, your struggles, your obstacles, your successes? Um, because I sit here and hear the fact that you guys, you've got a good lifestyle, you got good jobs, you've got a good background, a good upbringing, but you're still very, very intentional and very conscious about what you do with your finances. So walk me through what you guys have
Mm-hmm.
learned and implement on how that has affected your marriage.
So, we were kind of hitting this. A lot of people struggle, I think, with the fact, like, when you're a parent, your parents, and do we do all this on one income, or do we do it on two? That was never really an option for us, because Carrie was working when she was pregnant with the twins, but then like she went into preterm labor super early, and
Mm.
she had to take off work and be on bed rest for a couple months before the twins came, and then she wasn't going to go back to work after a few months with twins. I mean,
Yeah.
we literally would have spent more in childcare and formula and all the stuff than she probably would have been able to make. I mean, at
Right.
least
Yep.
for sure. To just so learning to live on one income actually came pretty easy to us because we didn't know any other way. Like we've
Hmm.
never allowed ourselves to really know any other way as a family. Um, but like to as far as and I'm very fortunate to have a very good, steady, good paying job, but it doesn't mean it's not without its financial struggles. And I think I think that's something, one of the most important lessons that I have learned is you learn to live on the money you make no matter what. Like no matter how much money you
Right.
make, you learn to live on that. When in anything, any deviation from that is hard, especially a deviation lower than that.
Right.
So we've been very mindful about where we spend our money and what we spend our money on. There was a time we had 3 car payments at once, which is crazy to think about. And that was I remember that just being a super stressful time for me, and
Yeah.
like, man, how could I ever do this to myself? And I knew for a fact that's not something I ever wanted to do again. Um, and so just I think it goes back to like relying on those past experiences. We've spent enough money and made enough good and enough bad financial decisions to really like gauge ones going forward.
Right.
And so I think that like really trying to rely on our past experiences, and something that we do when we sit down and we try to make a financial plan, whether it be a weekly or monthly budget, or whether it be we trying to plan out for a big purchase or whatever, we sit down and we write down our we have core values as a family. We have core values as a couple, as a married couple, then we also have core values as a family. And like, these are the things that we want to spend our time and money on. It's
Hmm.
X, Y, Z. And then like, if we come up to a financial decision that doesn't meet any of those core values, then we don't make, it's a no.
Right.
So I think it's a big lesson that we've learned for ourselves is um to set ourselves up for good decisions, like make the
Hmm.
decisions as easy as possible by trying to make as much of it beforehand.
I think
Yeah.
that core values is a fantastic idea. I've never come up with that thought myself. I'm not going to say I coined it either, but or probably just steal it from you at that point. But
Oh, that's fine.
yeah.
Steal away. 'Cause it wasn't my idea. I don't even know if it was Carrie's idea, but it was something that we heard
Yeah.
somewhere, and we just applied it to our own lives. And yeah, it's awesome. Like we sit down and she'll have her notebook like she does, and she'll just write down those few values on top of the sheet. And when we're making out or planning out a budget, that's where it goes.
That's an
And
excellent idea.
it's effective. It
Yeah.
seems simple and it seems like, oh, that's kind of cheesy, corny, but no, it's really, really good
Yeah. It helps you make those decisions too.
Hmm.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we talk a lot about how if you write down where your money's going to go, you put it on paper, you allocate it, that's where you're going to end up spending it. Exact same philosophy. If you write down what your values are, that's what you pay attention to. And it's that filter of reminding you, where are we going? What are we doing? What's the purpose here? Because otherwise, you could get so easily sidetracked by something that we'll call it the shiny object, something that looks really cool, really neat. You think it'd be a lot of fun to have, and like your dad said, as soon as you get done buying it, the excitement's over. Like, okay, how did this really benefit us? But if you've got those core values there, it helps you grade the decision and determine, is this going to give us that lasting impact, or is this just something that, has that really cool perk, but in the end, we're not going to get much utilization out of it. So I think it's the same concept as that. And it
Yep.
does make a lot of sense just to keep you grounded and reminded of what your intentions are with your money.
Yeah, 100%. Yep.
Well, man, I love just the simple insight that you always share, because um, there's some things that we just make too complicated. And I think when it comes down to managing our money, managing our relationships, managing our life, um, and following what you've done the last couple of years, it's obvious that you're very grounded in just honest simplicity. And if it doesn't make sense in black and white, then it's probably not a good decision. And I really have enjoyed seeing how you relate that to other people, how you incorporate that into your life, into your farm, into your podcast. Um, so I think this has been such an awesome conversation, just to dig into, you know, what what does smart living look like in the grand scheme of things? Because there's, like you said before, there's a lot of things that people can do when they have the opportunity. And I've this has actually been a recurring theme that I've had with people just in the last 2 weeks of, when situations change, you have the choice to change with it or to stay where you are. And that could be a good or bad, either one. And, as you talk about just staying focused and staying grounded in what is right with your money, with your life, with your decisions, not being swayed by the next opportunity or the next, increase in income or the next trip or whatever it is, but just staying very focused in what matters to us, what is going to consistently bring a return for our family, what's going to consistently give us a better life. And that's where we place our focus, no matter what happens around us. We stay grounded, we stay committed, we stay focused on what really matters and what really moves the needle. So I appreciate you just giving that down to earth, honest insight on navigating those different areas. So really appreciate that, Bob. Anything that has jumped out at you that you want to wrap up with and ask questions on?
Oh, I'm just thinking back on the experiences and who you spend those experiences with, and I found that to be the case in my life. That I'm one that I tend to be a homebody, and I've got just under 3 acres that I spend a lot of time on, and that suits me just fine. But I sometimes have to get out of my comfort zone. Like tomorrow, we're heading out, and my wife prodded me to get a camper, and I told her after we got it. I appreciate her prodding me on that because I've had some experiences with it that I wouldn't have had otherwise. And
Mm-hmm.
most of them enjoyable. Some I've learned from and what not to do the next time. And thankfully, I haven't broken anything yet. Knock on wood, I'll stay that way. So, um, yeah, just the idea of being purposeful and enjoying that time and uh, with the people you have those experiences with.
Yeah, definitely. Man,
Yeah,
where
and
is the best place? Go
I
ahead.
and just what oh, I just want to something. I don't know why this really stuck out to me here, but it did, and I felt like it's really important to say. And like, we this is really out of left field here, so bear with me. Um, we talk about, especially in agriculture, right? I'm going to shift this to agriculture. We talk so much about buying things so we can always use them, right? Um, for me, it was I had a skid steer at one time, and I found out that it pretty much sat idle for about, except for hay season, which is really only about a month out
Right.
of the year. It's like, why do I even have this thing? Like, we spend a lot of money. It's worth a lot of money. We could use things in a lot different ways than what we have. So we traded it in, and now I find that when I can plan it, you can go actually rent something like that you
Right.
only use for a certain amount of time, and it ends up being way cheaper, right? Like, oh man, you're paying that much for that little bit of use, but think about the amount of value you get per use out of it then.
Yes,
You know what I
exactly.
mean? So sorry, I know that was way out there and I don't know why it came to me right then, but oh yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. And it's because we rent a camper also for our county fair every year.
Go.
That's where it came from. So apologize. My mind is sometimes just really like shoots off places.
Bob does the same thing. I'm
so
used to
sometimes when
Yeah.
so, but yeah, that's where it came because we would never use a camper. I know
Mm-hmm.
that about ourselves. And so people are always like, man, you pay all that for just using a camper for a week. I was like, yeah, but I do, but I don't have to worry about making a payment on it every year. I don't, or every month. I don't have to worry about storing it, winterizing it. You know, something breaks on it. It's not my problem.
Mice.
You know,
You don't have to worry about mice.
mice.
Oh.
That's yeah. Yeah. Sorry. That was a big tangent there at the middle. I don't know where that came from. I appreciate you guys humoring me with that.
Yeah, I think we'll stop
Austin's
at mice.
used to it.
Great point. I see where it came in. This I think it's a great point just to wrap everything up in smart money use. There we go. Well, Jason, where is the best place for folks to connect with you to find out more about your podcast and your operation and just to get connected and develop a friendship with you?
Yeah. So that's I'm Ag State of Mind is the name of my podcast. It's wherever you get your podcasts. That's where you can find it. Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes. My website's agstateofmind.com. You can find me on all the socials at Ag State of Mind. Yeah, just reach out, and if you want to chat, and I'd love to talk to anybody.
Awesome. Well, man, thank you so much for your time, your insight, your stories. Always great to visit with you, and appreciate you being on the show today.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate the opportunity and enjoyed the chat.